Hello, 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 everyone. Happy Wednesday morning. How's everyone doing? Thank you for tuning in early again. And if you're watching on replay, which I completely understand, thank you, thank you, thank you. Good morning, Royal Palms. Hey, Christoph, I am hanging in there. This is a doozy of a week for me. So, hopefully, things will be more back to normal next week. Thank you for asking again, Christoph. Hey, Patrick. Yes, early risers. Good morning, Jake. Good morning, everybody in the background. So, even though we closed near the lows yesterday, we had some waning momentum. The market's getting tired, at least the downside. Doesn't mean it has to stop, but I am on high alert for at least some kind of consolidation slash partial bounce play. 53% of all option volume last Friday was, yes, 0 day to expirations and mostly institutional. You know what's interesting? Once this really shifts, especially the institutional volume of a 0 day to expiration, once the market starts getting into a more of a downtrend again, and it's instead of hitting a lot of call side, starts hitting the put side, it could get very interesting to downside risk. The intro isn't necessary. Well, that gives people time to come in and put the disclaimer up and gets me time to sit everything up. When I don't have an intro or have a shorter intro, people filter in the middle of the analysis. Good morning, Anissa. See, people are still filtering in now. So, what do we have? We had the mortgage stuff come out earlier. Look at that. It was mortgage rate 7.16. Oof. Building permits just came out right now. What did this look like? Let me just see. Building permits, month over month, a slight bounce. Housing starts, slight bounce. So that's where we sit right there. Next, we have capacity utilization coming out at 8:15. Manufacturing production. The crude numbers. And then we have the big thing today. I guess if there's any big thing today, would be the FOMC minutes. The FOMC minutes, 1 p.m. Central, 2 p.m. Eastern. So that's it. It'll just be more insight. But based off that, you still look at the FedWatch tool is fully in pause mode until one cut next May. So nothing's changing with that. Really, not much to see here. S&P 500, Tesla's still down pre-market. Looking like Nvidia's still trying to bounce. A little fall through yesterday. Target, although they were earnings this morning, missed on revenue, beat on EPS, but gapping up nearly 6.5%. The revenue numbers were not strong. So it's interesting on that one. Now, it has been a bit oversold, broke out of key consolidation and now bouncing back into that. But wow, buying that on the poor revenue numbers, I'm just not so sure. I'll be looking for a rollover topping pattern at some point. We have today, let me just refresh this real quick. We have consumer defensive energy. Energy had a little crude had a multi-day pullback and now is looking to try to put in a base. Real estate, consumer cyclical comm services. So this looks like a more of a defensive rotation into the pre-market. Defensive rotation, but we'll have to see how that follows through once the market's open. Remember, after your industrial production numbers at 8:15, 15 minutes before it opens, there isn't much until the FOMC minutes. We already looked at that. Fear and greed index finally back to neutral mode. We are finally in neutral mode. So, we're not in fear or extreme fear, but we've finally got out of extreme greed. So again, keep continually to watch for the bounce, some kind of bounce or sideways consolidation. But that's going to be, unless something drastically changes, looking for sell setups. We mentioned Target. I didn't even look at TJ Maxx. After the close, we got Cisco, which is the big one I'll be looking at. There's not a lot that else is market moving. Cisco won't really be market moving, but it'll be interesting still from a tech perspective. And then tomorrow morning, we have Walmart. Walmart's another biggie, so it'll be interesting to see how their numbers compare to Target's. All right. Good morning, Sterling. So yeah, even though this is what I'm talking, even though we closed on the near the lows yesterday, remember we're running out of the clear path move, which is in the next harmonic cluster about 44.38, and we're actually into a fairly key support zone in here. Yes, we did close above below the 50. It's still an area around here, so that's why I'm watching. Now, the fact that it couldn't close above the 50 still has negative implications, but you start seeing on this, we have especially with the stochastic RSI, you can see it. We use it for cycles, but you can still look for divergences in it. And if we look at, ooh, what happened to my weekly? If we look at the weekly, we are into the rotation zone, so I'm going to be really curious how we finish the next 3 days for this week. All right, we still have a little lower room to push down on the weekly, and cycles are sort of mismatched. They're trying to push up on the daily. So if we get any bounce, unless something changes drastically, I'm watching for a weaker bounce. Today, come on, give me my 4 hour. There we go. Today, this is, if you look at the 1 hour, it's not a double bottom. It's just an extended sideways move. I'm more interested still looking at, I'm going to drop this level just a bit. So you see how this key closed. We have buying pressure here, buying pressure that got closed. It broke through, retested that level, and then retested with the European Open. So 44.68, 44.67.50 is going to be what I'm watching for a more bullish sustained path into this more bullish sustained move into this clear path. So that's my key level. If we break below the lows from yesterday afternoon, the target's still 44.37. If we drop below there and that's clear path, then we have the low area from July 10th and we have the harmonics 44.15. So those are my key level. If we went more into sustained, let me just double check something here. Sustained, push down like something weird happened. The end of the next little mini clear path move is 43.75. But anywhere in this area, there's a fair amount of consolidation before the last breakout run. NASDAQ, this is, I'm more using this for targets, okay? I'm more using this for targets. I'm going to actually shift it in case we break down in the open to the aggressive side. And that's roughly the angle. Now, going into the open, if we start getting some momentum above 15,165, we're into a clear path move, which could be scalpy to the upside. The key area is really about this 15,317 to about 15,335. I'll be taking notice of a close on a 4 hour basis above 15,335 because I'm interested in this. We got a lot of stopping points in here. That's why I'm not going to be looking at this as an official double, but I wanted to see where the full targets would take us, and it takes us, the second target takes us closer to this breakdown zone. The third target still's within the 62.5, and that's from the aggressive side. So could we bounce and then sustain a rollover? Could we even bounce back to the 15.6 area? Sure. And then I'd be watching for that rollover play. To the downside, we hit the harmonic level, this 15,032 yesterday. If we look at the bigger picture, if we break through there, the next key support zone, the major support zone, 14,865 to about 14,917. Hey, Richard, consolidation market action seems more likely than correction down to the 200 MA. I think we will get another push lower, but we need to burn off some of this waning momentum. Actually, a bounce would be healthy at this point to set something up. Thank you, Sterling. TJ Maxx beat, stock up roughly $3 pre-market. How much value do you put into stochastic cycles on a monthly time frame? I mean, I'll glance at them, but they're going to get in times, they're going to get more and more stretched out. Now, what's interesting, if you look at the NASDAQ on the monthly time frame, you have the monthly cycles rolling over. But that does not mean, look, they can stay at one side or another for. I still look at them, but remember, it doesn't have to happen. It doesn't just have to plummet or it doesn't just have to suddenly rise. Look, they were turning up here, and then we put into the divergence, and then they got. So, this is giving us, all right, they're waning. They're starting to roll over on the monthly near prior major tops. So I will keep that in the back of my mind. But that doesn't mean we just have to go down. I mean, we'll be watching. Even if we broke to the bottom of the weekly rotation zone, I'd be watching for another bounce to set up more of a topping pattern on the weekly and then more of a rollover play. So keep that in mind with longer term cycles. The Dow, also divergences, little waning momentum. Tet holding this key harmonic even this morning. If we do break lower, next harmonic is 34,890, and then a very key area. Now remember, anywhere between about 34,890 or 34,720 and 34,890 is a key support zone. You have the 50 in there, and you have the harmonic at the upper end. So anywhere in here is a major area. If we did have one more push lower, that I'd be watching more substantially for the bounce play there. To the upside again, still similar more to the NASDAQ, although this is where an area I would pay attention to these highs instead of the close, because there's no key close in here. You have some buying pressure just above that, and then you turn into selling pressure here, but about 35,100 would be the breakout level I'd use for the Dow. Russell also coming into a very key support area. Next major areas about 1890 to about 1893. Sound like a broken record. Waning momentum. So, cycles are pinned to the bottom. But the Russell's been weak, but the same level I'm using, 1911. We get 1911, you have a clear path move. We could see more of a sustained push, and the target I would utilize is about 1932 for if we can get any kind of rally on. VIX, still looks like we have shifted volatility to a higher band. So if we start rallying, I'm going to be watching 1481. That's going to be key for any VIX pullback. Resistance is still about 1720. So those are the key volatility areas I'm watching. I cannot get overly bearish unless we sustain above 1720. I cannot get overly bullish unless we start sustaining below 1480. Everything else is the minor plays within that. DAX, still edging lower. Not yet quite to the 87.5, so still watching for that one. Notes, running out of downside momentum in this key area. There should be a fair amount of support, though. If the lows from last October break, watch out. But this is going to take some time to chew through. Is there a fantastic pattern? No. Any bounce, though, I'd be looking for rollover plays. Still same as the 10-year. I'm watching there's major resistance up here. We hit the harmonic for the short term. Yesterday, you see the little reverse harmonic. Hit the short term. The next key area is 4.3. I'm expecting either some kind of pullback or consolidation up here unless something really shocks in the FOMC minutes. And remember, when we come into a major resistance area, sometimes it takes a couple pushes to get through. But we have the rising rotation zone, and your key bottom of the rotation zone is coming out at the secondary breakout level that it tested in March, tested in July, and then finally broke through. So that's the bottom level of support now, and that's even at 4.05%. So even on the pullback here to a base here would just be building a base to try to make another push through there. Potentially. 10-2s, not much new information. Dollar index, hitting the 200, hitting the 200. Tried to dip yesterday, rallied back up. Tried to dip a little earlier today. So this is still holding. Key support, 102.45. It's chipping away at that 200 in the top of this channel line. As I say, pay attention to dollar index. Because if it does break through here, you could see some additional pressure on the markets. Even on a pullback to about 102.20, still holding this very major support level. Crude, trying after a multi-day pullback to the bottom of the daily rotation zone, trying to watch for a bottoming pattern in here with daily cycles getting to the bottom but not yet turning up. Weekly still turning down. That's where we have a mismatch in cycles. So personally, on any bounce play, I'd be looking on a more aggressive raising the stop to trail up, I should say, unless it closes above 83.25 on a bounce play because of mismatched cycles. If we do get the close below the daily rotation zone, I'll start watching for the bigger pullback into that weekly rotation zone and possibly pull back to the 200, the 50 area, and the lower breakout area. Natty gas coming back. It looks like I want to see, though, if we still hold above about 255. Because we had the little breakout play. Now the pull out, but it's good. The pullback, but it's going to be interesting to see if it holds this higher channel. And then rebases here. But so far, a fake breakout. Gold, nothing new just yet. Nothing new just yet, but I'll be watching for some kind of bounce pattern to potentially sell and sell setups. The big five still in the downward channel. The Japanese JGB's 10-year in double top territory, but that'd be the only thing that would really change my stance on that, to watch for that bigger pullback to 0.5 or 50 basis points. Other than that, it's still holding up relatively well, and the yen keeps the rally on. US dollar, Japanese yen. Next target 147.30. Then 148.85. The only thing I am on intervention watch. I am, but that can't be timed. It's just something, if we start to see a quick reversal, it's going to be looking for the Bank of Japan intervention. Euro, not a great setup here. Any rallies, I'll be looking for another rollover play. I think the euro is going to break down from this 108.50 area and tag the 200 over the next couple weeks. Pound, this is just a sloppy potential double bottom. First target being at this big rotation hit, so I'll keep an eye to see if that triggers. Other than that, we'll be watching for another rollover play. Bitcoin has gone absolutely to sleep. Nothing to do there. Spiders and the Qs. Spiders yesterday coming in close enough to the 50 EMA, about 442. Trading just above their pre-market. Key resistance now 443.90 to 444. And then you're looking at about 445.65. And anything that's 442 is very major. And then we're still into this. The gap fill was to 442.46. And yesterday's low was to 442.30. So the gap fill's been done here. So there's no more gaps in sight. We fixed in the short term. We filled the gap, and we're right against the 50 area. So this 442 on any test down in the open, I'm really paying attention to that. Even the 441.33. Same thing as with the S&P. We're going into a fair amount of support here. 439.32, then 438.18. But this is a major support zone. I'm really watching for that bounce coming up, or at least a sideways consolidation. The bounce does not have to be strong unless we see a shift into, with especially some buying pressure coming in. The Qs. Let me just pull this. We're so close to that. I'm just going to, we know it's roughly about 363.80. 366.11. We have a fair amount of support, 364. 70, and then 363.80, then 362 roughly. To the upside, I'd be paying attention to yesterday's close at 366.42. And then we have the shorter term breakdown zone. Yeah, about 367.90 to 368. And above there, you're looking at, see how these levels keep it at the 370.50. So that's what you're looking at for the Qs. In terms of Tesla, Tesla closing at the harmonics, gapping down. Remember I said we're going to see 225s, and then we'll eventually see, we'll get a bounce before that, but we'll eventually see before the 200, though. I'd be paying attention to major support coming out at the prior breakdown zone, breakout zone 214.65 area, and then 207.47. Anywhere between 225.80 and about 207.47, I'll be watching for a more substantial bounce play. But that'll go into sell mode again. How can I make a living from trading? It takes a lot of learning and practice, and I'd focus on longer term patterns first and don't focus on being a day trader first. And then it just requires a lot of practice and being consistent in your methodology, learning proper reward to risk, learning stop management, and not being greedy and not trying to chase moves. It requires a lot of discipline. NVIDIA jumping up yesterday to 62.5 with no close above it, rotating down. Again, I'm still watching this 451.72 area, still in a downward channel. If you look, we're in the weekly rotation zone. What really, after this bounce play, this is going to set up a more substantial topping area, but once it breaks down from about 375, it could be all over in the short term, and then we're going to get a lot more pressure on the markets. The only thing that makes me, after this insane 7% move on Monday, the only thing that I'll be watching for is if we can close above this 451.72 area for a push, one final push higher to the upper end before the next potential bigger rollover. Morning, Jacob. Little confirmed double. Thank you, Christoph. Let's jump to crude. That's why I appreciate everybody being here. Yep. Little confirmed 1 hour double. I would use the conservative targets in there, but that has been confirmed and triggered. Confirmed and triggered. Technical question, is the KNX daily double KNX? Is the KNX daily double top invalidated with the rally on Monday? We can take a look. Let's see. The quick thing to do, let's see where it was got up to. Yeah, it's invalidated. Now, if you're still looking for short plays on this, it's going into a clear path move. You can't use the double targets. If you're looking for short plays, the first target I would utilize, if this bounced up and then was going to roll over again, I'd be looking for 57.83, and then you have the remnants of a clear path move. This is a challenging short, though, from my perspective, because you're shorting into a lot of key support. So you have to manage these stops pretty well. And you see here, this is even on this bigger channel, you can see how it's sort of channeling lower with this, especially it was a double, which was clean. This bounced it up, so it turned more into a channeling pattern. And if you look where that's combining, it's right around this, 57.85. Even if it takes a little longer, you have the 50 down there. So this, I'd be looking for easier opportunities to the short side, personally. Yeah, it's invalidated. Yep, DLO. Then I have to jump everyone. DLO. Look at that. What is... I know nothing. Oof. They must have... Yep. This is trading against a major breakdown zone right now. Let's see what the next key targets are. This is the major. So it's trading just slightly above there. The last major push in the harmonics. So the 50% is coming in about 21.33. And then the prior tops on these weeklies, look at that before the big sell-off, 24.41. So we're going to get a bounce back. 1950 becomes key support at that point. If it starts breaking below that again, then you could see some backfilling. The backfilling area would be to about 1750, and then it would be 1575 on your back. You can see how those lines line up. Now, if the rally continues, 21.33, but anywhere between 21 and 24 could be a rollover. And look at all this resistance in here. So if you are long, I'd be looking for either some partial profit taking and trailing out, or if there's a topping pattern triggered in here, I'd be looking to aggressively raise a stop or take something off the table. But that's how, remember, on these bigger moves, especially from this, a declining base with, and people say, oh, descending triangle, blah, 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 blah. But just look for the key levels here and then the key harmonics on this last push down, the last major push down. That's really how I like to start dissecting it. Thank you, Christoph, for the super sticker. You are very welcome. Thank you for your wonderful questions. Thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Sorry again that it has to be a little earlier. Should be back to normal time next week. I appreciate spending the time with me, though, and still supporting the channel. Again, big shout out to Christoph for the super sticker. And with that, I will talk to everyone later. Have a wonderful trading day. Bye for now.